This is the story of Tommy Fury, who was born in the shadow of a heavyweight champion. Trained by his father, John Fury, famous for managing bare-knuckle fighters, and spent his early years being compared to one man, his half-brother, Tyson Fury. Tommy dreamed of boxing since he was a kid, but his father had banned him from the sport. He only allowed him to train in martial arts, which Tommy excelled at, winning multiple championship belts. But the shadow of Tyson Fury loomed large over this fight. Tommy wasn't just fighting Jake Paul. He was fighting the comparisons, the expectations, and the heavy crown of being the Gypsy King's younger brother. Tyson called it simple. If Tommy lost, he'd be disowned. That kind of statement raised the stakes higher than any belt. The fight became a test not just of Tommy's skill, but of his right to carry the Fury name into the next generation. But let's start at the beginning. In the lead up to the fight, Tommy seemed unfazed by his brother's comments. He claimed that if anything, it would motivate him to win. And his confidence was backed by an impressive record: 8 wins and 1 draw with 4 knockouts. On paper, he looked like a force to be reckoned with. But how would he fare against a YouTuber turned pro boxer? Well, we'll tell you all about that right after. On the day of the fight, the Manchester Arena was buzzing with anticipation. It wasn't just the Fury family name that carried weight in this matchup. Jake Paul had become a force to be reckoned with in the boxing world, knocking out former NBA player Nate Robinson and former MMA champion Tyron Woodley twice. Even though Tommy was a slight favorite going into the fight, the atmosphere was charged with tension. The first bell rang and the fight began. Paul came out swinging, looking aggressive and confident. Tommy, however, seemed to be taking it easy, moving around the ring and occasionally throwing a punch. This frustrated Paul, who grew increasingly agitated. Despite the trash talk between the two fighters during the press conferences, there was no bad blood in the ring. They appeared to be sizing each other up, feeling out the space between them. After 4 rounds, Paul started to show some fatigue. His breathing became more labored, and his punches were less effective. Tommy, on the other hand, seemed to be conserving his energy, waiting for his moment to strike. The 5th round marked a turning point in the fight. Tommy started to take control, landing several solid punches that visibly hurt Paul. Despite this, Paul managed to make it to the 6th round. But by this time, the tide had turned and Tommy's punches were becoming more powerful and accurate. As the fight wore on, Paul's face became increasingly bruised and swollen, a testament to Tommy's relentless attacks. The 7th round saw a bloodied Paul stumble and fall to the canvas. Tommy had knocked him down. Paul managed to get back up, but it was clear that he was on shaky ground. The referee's decision to stop the fight after the 8th round was met with boos from Paul's corner, but it was the right call. Tommy had clearly won the fight. In the post-fight interview, Tommy addressed his brother's comments about being disowned. He stated that he had proved himself, and now the Gypsy Kingship had officially been passed to him. While this may have been a satisfying conclusion to the narrative, the reality is much more nuanced. Tommy's victory over Paul was undoubtedly impressive. He showed skill, strategy, and resilience throughout the fight. His ability to control the pace of the fight and land powerful punches when it mattered most was crucial to his win. However, to say that the Gypsy Kingship has been passed to him might be a bit of a stretch. Tyson Fury is still at the top of his game. He holds multiple heavyweight titles and is widely regarded as one of the best boxers in the world, regardless of weight class. To suggest that Tommy has already surpassed his half-brother, who is still reigning supreme in the heavyweight division, seems premature. Moreover, the idea of inheriting a title simply through family lineage doesn't sit well with many boxing fans. Boxing is a highly competitive sport, and championships are hard-won. To reduce Tommy's achievement to a mere inheritance undermines his hard work and dedication. That being said, Tommy's future in boxing looks bright. He has shown that he can hold his own in the ring and that he has the potential to be a force to be reckoned with. With his impressive win over Paul under his belt, he can move forward in his career knowing that he has a lot to offer. In the aftermath of the fight, there has been speculation about a rematch. However, both fighters seem to be keeping their options open. Tommy has expressed interest in fighting other top contenders, while Paul has hinted at moving up in weight class. Ultimately, the possibility of a rematch will depend on what both fighters decide to do next. Looking beyond the immediate future, it's hard not to think about the long-term implications of this fight. Tommy's win over Paul has undoubtedly elevated him in the public eye. People are now talking about him in the same breath as his half-brother, which is no small feat. However, Tommy needs to continue to prove himself if he wants to make a name for himself outside of the Fury family. One way he can do this is by fighting other top contenders in the middleweight division. There are several talented fighters in the division, including Jermell Charlo, Gennady Golovkin, and Saul Canelo Alvarez. If Tommy can make a name for himself by fighting and beating these top fighters, he will truly establish himself as a force to be reckoned with. Another way for Tommy to differentiate himself from his half-brother is to focus on his own unique strengths. While Tommy and Tyson have some similarities in their fighting styles, they also have different approaches to the sport. For example, Tommy is a southpaw, while Tyson is an orthodox boxer. Additionally, Tommy has a background in martial arts, which he incorporates into his fighting style. He can use these differences to his advantage and develop a style that is uniquely his own. It's also important for Tommy to remember that he does need to follow in his half-brother's footsteps to succeed. Tyson Fury is a heavyweight champion, but that doesn't mean Tommy is destined to be a heavyweight as well. Tommy should focus on competing in the weight class that best suits him and pursuing the titles that align with his goals. Finally, Tommy needs to stay focused and keep his head in the game. The pressure of living up to the Fury family name can be immense, but he has already shown that he can handle the pressure and come out on top with the right mindset and approach. Tommy can continue to make a name for himself in the boxing world and establish himself as a true champion in his own right. The fight between Tommy Fury and Jake Paul was undoubtedly an exciting event with an impressive performance by Tommy. While his victory has elevated him in the public eye, it's important to remember that the Gypsy Kingship is not a birthright and that Tommy still has a lot to prove. With hard work, dedication, and a focused mindset, Tommy can carve out his own path to success in the boxing world and create his own legacy rather than living in the shadow of his half-brother. So, do you think Tommy Fury has what it takes to become a champion in his own right, or will he always be in Tyson Fury's shadow? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more exciting stories